Welcome to the Last Beer Show, episode 35. We're talking alternative crafts, such as CBD water, hard coffee, like the one from Pabst Blue Ribbon that is so hot right now. We're joined by Jason Santamaria of Second Self Brewing. We're glad you're here. Let's get into it. All right. Exactly. So we've got a special guest.
He's so special.
Jason Santamaria of Second Self Brewing.
Hello.
And we're going to put him in the mix here in just a minute. But Jason, what's up?
Hey, Wayne.
What you get into?
Happy Monday, my friend. Happy Monday.
Is it a Monday?
It is Monday. I was thinking it's Monday because we were just talking about beer shares, and I was at a big beer share last night, and then I had another one on Friday night.
Of course you did.
And so I was thinking, it's kind of funny because I post these on my Instagram. If you want to check it out on Instagram, it's at Dominy Imbibes, Dominy Imbibes. I post these pictures on Instagram story.
Right.
And I had people messaging me left and right. Dude, where are you? Why did I not get an invite? It's like,
yeah.
well, it's not really my share. I was of invited, but man, I've had the joy of drinking some really, really good stuff. And turns out my friend Evan invited me over. He just got back from a huge jaunt through the Northeast, so he had a bunch of fresh Treehouse and Trillium and on
nice.
and on and
Some
on.
Special treats.
Some special treats. And
That's
so
cool.
We drank that, and then on Friday, I went to a giant lambic share. So we had a ton of stuff from Cantillon and 3F and Hudson
Now you're
Valley
like, no fruited beers for a month.
Yeah,
I'm all fruited out.
I actually had just got to the point where I'm not burping and tooting. So I think I'm gonna be good for a little bit, thanks to the antacids.
And they're all pretty low grav.
Yeah.
So you're going all night, and all you're getting is a stomach ache.
All night long, all night.
See?
Yeah.
Nice.
So. Yeah, what about you? What have you been into lately?
I have gotten into some really... I'm doing this thing where every weekend I'm trying to visit a local brewery I haven't been to yet.
Okay.
So I'll try to find something in that area of town that I've just got to do. And then, while I'm in that area, I should totally stop in.
Yeah, might as well.
That's my pitch to the wife. It seems to be working right now. Okay. Probably till she listens to this. Actually,
like, I got to go. Get some milk and bread. And
exactly.
While I'm out.
An hour away. Yeah. But I have gotten into some pretty darn good pours, man, which is amazing. But you know what I did check out is I went to one of those self-serve like pour.
Oh yeah.
Down on the Atlanta Beltline there.
Yeah.
And it was pretty neat. I mean they have some good beers.
So how many beers do they have on draft right now?
Well, they have a lot of taps. There's probably like 10 wines, and they had like 10 alternative things, which I thought was pretty cool. Actually, they had a alcoholic seltzer, a couple of those, flavored, not flavored. They had several ciders, which I thought was really cool.
Yep.
And they had several beers that were from, say, Burial, Fontaflora, Monday Night. They had some things from Bearded Iris. Did I say Bearded Iris? No. And some other local ones, which I thought was really good. Solid local effort. Good mix. You know, it was probably 20 taps, so it's just a couple stouts, couple of sourish
50
things.
taps total. It's a pretty big.
Pretty big place.
Yeah.
I think
it's really cool.
And half of them were good beer, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's pretty expensive.
Do you remember what the price was per? They charge you by the ounce, right?
It was different for each beer.
It's paid by the ounce, but it depends on the beer and the cost.
So they give you a pretty large goblet.
Yeah, of course.
It's pretty substantial.
Here's your gallon jug. Fill it up.
Yeah.
It probably holds 16 ounces.
I didn't realize it was that big.
Substantial.
Yeah, exactly.
So I filled it like a third of the way through, and I looked up, and it's
that's
like
$15.
70 cents, like 72.5 cents an ounce. It's like 4 decimals.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Yeah.
So you pull on it, and then you just watch it go, and you spent like $8 on like a few ounces of beer.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
But it's a really neat setup because behind the scenes, they actually have a self-cleaning system. So every time someone it runs some cleaning through it.
Oh, that's good.
So like when you have a beer that sits, because when you see 50 taps, the fear is that beer's been there for a month.
That's
Something's
the
been
biggest
sitting.
fear that I heard about when they opened, I think, in the Durham area, was that people were like, "Yeah, I wonder how much of that's old stale beer sitting there."
Right. That was the first question I asked when I got to tour it behind the scenes. So
That's
it was
cool.
really
I
neat.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
What else
They
should
do
we
it
They
know
also
about?
have the bottle washer, so you put your glass
Yep.
upside down, and you can rinse your own glass right there, which is cool.
What are the other unique things that you think about it? And then just for the record, we're talking about the place is called Pour Tap Room. They actually have locations all over the Southeast now, I think.
Yeah,
And there are other brands like it, I think.
Yeah,
in
there
other
are.
Yeah, and what was cool, I mean, the functionality-wise, that's the biggest thing I thought, but it's also connected to a restaurant, so you can just walk over, get food, and come back.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And you're also on the Beltline, so you can bring food in, and they have a little patio.
Yeah,
So
they'll bring
it's
pizza from
super
the-
clean.
Yeah, it's kind of
next
cool
door.
how they partner with the pizza place next
Yeah.
door, and they actually have a window in the location, so you can actually just order directly from the tap room itself.
Yeah.
And it was good that they partnered with the business next door, I thought.
Right.
Yeah.
But the iPads on each tap, I think, has untapped ratings and a description. So you can get a lot of knowledge, self-serving knowledge, if you will.
How knowledgeable were the servers and other people that work in there?
I thought they were pretty knowledgeable. I mean, better than I'd say like a Taco Mac.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. There you go.
That's good.
That's good. I was going to say it doesn't take much, but
Well, that establishment does pour a lot of Coors Light in their defense.
They
don't have to know a lot.
Yeah, they're not as. I would say they're probably to me it doesn't seem they're as craft beer centric as they once were.
Speaking of pouring, what are we pouring here,
We
Jason?
are pouring. This is.
I should be distinct in which Jason I'm referring to.
Yeah, there's two of us now.
This is Treehouse. I have Promises to Keep, which is a Treehouse double IPA. And what do you think?
That's great. It's my first step. Yeah, super clean, good bit of fruit, nice but still pretty dry, especially for a Treehouse beer, which I love.
Yeah, I honestly I'm blown away by it. It's got a lot of depth to it that you don't really see in some of these Northeast IPAs. They're sort of one-sided.
I like it better than
I just had that Super Treat.
Super Treat.
Let me try that.
Yeah, so we actually just opened up a fresh Treehouse Super Treat, which is an Imperial IPA from Treehouse. We also started the podcast off drinking Second Self's Golden Blonde Ale, just so we started with something super clean. And man, this beer is super clean, super fresh.
That's Jason. Tell us
Jason's-
a little bit about it, and tell us a
Jason's
little bit about you.
One of Jason's baby, and I like that on the label it says it's just beer,
Yeah.
which is good.
The story of this beer has been fun. So we've been making this beer it's been evolving for about 2 years in the tap room, and we've called it Just Beer forever. That's a name that Sam Adams has, and so we couldn't launch a beer with it. So we went to launch this beer in the spring. We're working on the art for it. So we had to change it from Just Beer. We were going to call it Beer Flavored Beer, and literally 2 weeks before we released it, Southern Brewing released Beer Flavored Beer. So we literally went back to the drawing board and redid all of our labels.
Really?
And we called it Golden Blonde because it was super simple, and we had beer in the tank ready to go. But yeah, It's Just Beer is the nod to the beer that's been in the tap room forever. But this is basically the shift beer that we all drink after work, and that's kind of the whole point. So 4.5%. Pacific Gym, Cascade hops, so just classic with a nice little zesty, kind of almost berry kind of finish to it from those hops.
Yeah,
it's delicious.
I got a lot of like lemon zest, like super nice zesty citrus. I liked it a lot. Honestly.
Yeah, thank you.
Super clean. I mean, just like super fresh tasting. Which,
It's about a week old, so it's the last batch we made. Thank you. I appreciate
good.
it. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Second Self Brewing.
Yeah, so this is my baby. So I launched this with my business partner Chris Doyle in 2014, and the name comes from I worked for a very large software company with 3 letters, and so this was my passion project, my alter ego, my second self. So for me, This is about achieving your dream, living it every day, and then helping others do it too. So a lot of stuff that we do at the brewery and outside of the brewery are to help others achieve their dream, whether it's nonprofits, people trying to start other things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
I had a lot of help getting to where I am today, and I just feel like I need to do what I can to help others.
Give some back.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. That's amazing. So thanks for joining us. We've got a couple of topics.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're gonna jump right in. So there's some news recently.
Now you can do in the news.
Now we go beep, 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 beep. In the news,
There
it's
you
the
go.
Last Beer Show news.
And maybe normally we wouldn't care, but since we've been on this subject for probably a few weeks, maybe a few months, because we had sort of a 4-episode lapse where Jason and I had discussed women models on Instagram. I mean, they're on other channels too, but Instagram, it's particularly popular.
Yeah, predominant.
So we had, in the last episode, go get it, episode 34, you will find us talking to women about women on Instagram. And I hope it was a much more productive and complete conversation on the subject.
Yep.
And what's news about this is that the Brewbound podcast has run into some challenges because the hosts decided to make comments about some women that were mentioned in an article by Uprocks that was celebrating all kinds of social media influencers across all kinds of networks from all different sort of groups, however niche or minority. And what they decided to do, the host decided to kind of start judging whether or not those women should be bothering to do that. And they started judging them and comparing them and grading them. And that went about as well as you would expect that to go.
Yeah.
They caught a lot of backlash. And what the women did, I thought was really amazing, is really professionally gathered themselves and sent letters to Brewbound that were, instead of like just blasting and going total on blast on social media, they just totally went straight at them in a very organized fashion and made their case. Now, Brewbound did catch a lot of crap on social media for it, and they did from some other channels, bigger and smaller. But I thought it was really great that they came out and apologized and, have suspended the show indefinitely. So even a podcast can go to hell for catching or doing inappropriate crap. It's good to see there's some justice in the world, I think. Like, those guys kind of got what was coming to them. Like, I don't know, Jason and I came at it from the position of, like, wanting to learn more about it. Like, what do you think about this? What do the women think about this? And whatever they think is fine with me. Like, who the hell am I to say either way, right?
Right.
And the last thing the world needs is just another white guy telling everybody else how they should think.
Yeah, and honestly, like reading their apology, it's definitely one of the better apologies I've seen. I like that they sort of explained the problem, they explained the solution and the steps that they were going to take to make sure that it didn't happen again. They talked about new production and editing steps that they were going to take to make sure that this didn't happen again. Some of the feedback on Twitter I saw was some people appreciated that, and some other people didn't believe it. They thought it was too little, too late.
Well,
but I think it was.
You're not going to go far enough for some people, and that's fine too. They can have their position. Whatever they think about it is fine. I think that they were thorough and decisive, and that, at the end of the day, is kind of what matters. Is that kind of action sets a precedent for how the responses are going to go in the future, or should go in the future, right? So
I think
thought it was cool.
Yeah, from a social media professional's perspective, I think that the way that they responded and the way that they have talked about this on social media is the correct way. It's really the only way that they should have done it, was to admit that you screwed up.
Right.
Just apologize, admit that you screwed up, say what you'll do to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and
we did it.
Move on.
Remember the first episode? We used a term we didn't hashtag. We didn't fully consider the use of.
Oh yeah.
And you caught hell from a friend on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then the next episode just came right out and said, that was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. We didn't know. We didn't have enough context. We shouldn't have done that without it. And
in exchange for that, we're
moving on.
Yeah, we brought 4 women on to talk about it from a different perspective that we thought would be maybe a little bit smarter.
Absolutely.
That's sort of the way that we went about it. So we wish those guys luck. Honestly, as someone who's worked at breweries, doing social at breweries, those guys have been they've been allies to me at both the breweries that I helped out. And so I wish them luck because I know that they do a lot of good for craft breweries all around the country.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't win, but still, I'm glad that they took the action they did. That was the right move.
Yeah.
So, what else you got?
They weren't thinking in the moment. So,
is that all the news?
We all learned something. That's all the news that I got. We are sort of in a dry spell as far as news goes. Everybody's talking about White Claws and hard seltzer right now. So
not just that. I hear certain substances are getting state legality around the country.
Yeah, I have.
How many states have?
I think it's like ABC water or something like that.
How many states have legalized marijuana?
There's 11 states, so it's recreational. Yeah.
So 11 states have recreationalized marijuana.
And I think it's like 33 that have some medical around there.
And I have seen from breweries in Colorado, I believe, that there have been some beers made with actual. I'm pretty sure
THC or just like hemp oil.
I'm pretty sure like THC and like the full oils.
CBD
from marijuana, not CBD.
The full
thing, because they can in those states.
Yeah, it's up to the state to decide if they allow it or not. But yeah, there's some breweries that are doing it in recreational states.
Yep.
Wow.
Right. Yep.
We are not there in the state that we're in, which is Georgia. Marijuana is only partially legalized for medical usage at this time, and it's actually a relatively new thing here. So not a lot of
July
people,
1st.
Yeah, July 1st. And so not a lot of people even know what that looks like or what that will be like. And so it hasn't really hit craft beer yet. But what has hit craft beer and what has hit breweries in this area is the wide usage of CBD. It's in my timeline. I've got probably 10 friends right now that are selling CBD oils using social media, and breweries are looking to sort of figure out how they can use the best of these both worlds. And Jason is actually in his brewery at Second Self, although this is an offshoot of that sort of. But tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing with Cirrus and sort of how you got to the point of where you guys are now. They've launched recently, I think last month, 2 months ago, they launched Cirrus in May, and it's a CBD water. They have two different varieties. We're actually getting ready to get into one, which is the Waikiki, papaya, and lychee Cirrus, which is sparkling water, 10 milligrams of CBD, hemp extract, and then they have an unflavored model. So tell us sort of how you got into it, what made you decide that you wanted to move in that direction, and kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of two different things were happening at the same time last year that led me to create Cirrus, and this is a separate entity from Second Self, but I'm just as involved in it as everything else. So I got into using CBD personally. As a business owner, I have anxiety issues staying up at night. Like everyone says, what keeps you up at night? And it's
right.
my family that is the brewery and what we're doing. So I just started seeing the beliefs of it. At first, I called it snake oil because you read the list of benefits and it just sounds like snake oil. Mm-hmm. So I jokingly, this was Project Snake Oil, was what the code name was of the brewery. That was kind of there. And then on the side note, you touched on it earlier, but I was seeing these seltzers kind of taking away the Gen X kind of drinkers of beer, trying to cut calories, trying to save carbs, all those things. And so I started playing, making hard seltzers, but the problem is that all of us hate them. We don't like drinking them. We don't like how they taste. We don't like anything about it. So it was really hard for anyone to be motivated to do a lot of R&D. But out of that came all the practices I needed to create Cirrus. And the way I saw it was craft beer is being eaten by seltzer waters in 2018. What's next? Like, I can't compete with Truly on price or marketing. Right. I can make something that tastes better, but will a $11 six-pack really matter to someone who's buying a $7 six-pack of Truly? Probably not. They probably don't care if it's local and cool, but
Right.
I don't know, and we didn't have the resources to just put that much out there and try it. So, what's the West Coast doing? What are other countries doing? And that's what I saw CBD beverages, and so why not leapfrog everyone else and do it? So that's what we did.
So I just took
cool.
a sip of this, and honestly, I haven't tried it until now. It's interesting. I'm not a LaCroix guy, which I'm definitely not a White Claws guy. If you can make that step further down the ladder,
You didn't want to go like Dasani.
no, it's
Sparkling.
It's not really my thing. But what should I be expecting? Like, what should somebody who tries this for the first time? What should they expect out of what they taste and what they get out of it? And then what I mean by what they get out of it. So, like, how will this make me feel? Like, what will I notice from this?
And this was a phrase I heard recently. I started stealing it. Was that CBD doesn't make you feel a certain way; it kind of takes away some feelings.
Okay.
So it doesn't. It's not psychoactive. You're not going to get a high out of it. You're not going to have one of these and just fall on the floor. But for me, it calms my brain down a little bit. Helps me concentrate and focus, and it helps me relax at the end of the day. So to me, these are all great positives.
I have chugged the whole thing right now.
I'm like, I have ADD. I will drink 4 of these at once.
Yeah, and so I have one in the morning when I get to work. It helps me get my stuff done in the morning, and I have one on the drive home because it doesn't impair my judgment, but it does kind of relax me a little bit, and that's what's great about it. And we are using all natural flavors, so these are made here in Atlanta. It's a natural lychee extract and a natural papaya extract. So we're using real fruits.
Great.
So they macerate them into an alcohol and redistill them, and that's what we're using.
Yeah.
So you're getting all real fruit flavor in this, which is something that at Second Self we don't use extracts or colors. Like a lot of breweries do to get the beer to look and taste and smell a certain way. We only use real fruits and real things.
Interesting.
So that was kind of we couldn't do that with this because we can't put juices in here because of pasteurization, shelf stability issues. But we are using natural flavorings, which is the next best thing.
Got you.
And they are made, custom made for us in small batches, and that we oversee them. So it was really, really interesting process learning about it because it's something I didn't know, a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know until tonight. So
we mentioned CBD waters.
we did, and I mentioned
a couple of weeks ago.
actually.
You did, because a couple of weeks ago we talked briefly about breweries doing things outside of beer in order to either accommodate people who are non-beer drinkers in the tap room to draw, so that having non-beer.
What I call it, that's the veto vote. Getting someone will go. We have a group of friends going. Someone goes, "I don't drink beer. I'm not going to go." So I want to get rid of that. So we're the first brewery in Georgia to have a wine license and a brewery license.
Interesting.
So we're working on ciders now, and I've been on a wine journey for about 5 years. So wines are next.
I'm starting to
Amazing.
see that. I'm starting to see a lot of breweries that also have wine as an offering.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, in other states, a lot of breweries will serve beverages from other local brewers and businesses, but in Georgia, it's kind of complicated.
Right. We can only sell things that we produce. So
exactly.
we will be producing cider and producing wine, and that's what we will sell.
And that
I'd love to
diversification.
just buy our friend's product
Yeah.
and resell it, but we can't.
What does that look like for even cider? So, Urban Cider is down the road from you guys. And
Right.
They're kind of classified uniquely too, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're a farm winery, so in Georgia they have a full retail license. So they actually sell our beer in their tap room.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they can do that because it's an exception built for the farm wineries.
Retail.
Interesting.
Yeah, I see that.
And it was originally made to boost the Georgia grape economy since we had terrible grapes.
Yeah.
So it's the only way any winery could make anything. Well, because the grapes take a long time.
They take a long time
to mature, and B, what grows here isn't classic grapes. You have to get hybrid grapes because it's too hot.
Right.
You have a lot of other issues too. But
it takes forever too to get generational maturity.
Right.
Yeah.
So to able to allow wineries in Georgia to even start, they had to have a bunch of exceptions, which they have still to this day.
Yeah.
They can self-distribute. The only people who can self-distribute in the state.
Yeah, it was always weird to me. You could go to a winery and buy a 15,
all the wine you
18%. alcohol bottle of wine from the winery, but you couldn't go to a brewery and buy a 5% beer,
right?
Which is kind of backwards.
Walk into Chateau Alon,
but those guys have really big lobbyists.
They do
in government, and so it always miffed me.
Yeah,
this is really good.
This is
Thank
really
you.
Good.
I'm really enjoying it.
I like it a lot, and then I thought, hey,
I'm gonna buy me some
like one of these fresh.
I saw you do that. That looks great.
It's actually really good. I mean, well, this is what is this? Passion fruit and lychee,
papaya
and lychee, and then I just put a slice of fresh Georgia peach in it, and man, it's even more delicious. But this is really good by itself. Like I could see doing these by the pool. A million ways you could drink this.
Yeah, and it's you can also. I use this as a mixer as well, and so the pure is actually a better mixer. It's like a club soda replacement. Okay. And I joke it's mixing your antioxidants with your oxidants, since the CBD is essentially an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. That's what it's doing. But if you use something like pure, you're kind of slightly negating the downside of alcohol. Yeah. So instead of having a Truly, you should have a vodka in your Cirrus Pure.
So let me ask you this:
less calories and better.
Less calories and better for you.
I read recently. I read a story on you guys, and it was an interview with you where you talked a lot about your future plans of what you're going to be doing with Second Self, and the thing that kind of struck me as interesting, not that all of it didn't strike me as interesting, but the thing that kind of popped out to me was this idea of being a beverage incubator. And you're not really seeing a ton of craft breweries thinking outside of the craft beer walls, and some of them for various reasons. Purposes as to this is what we see our focus is going to be. This is where we see our kind of niche thing, and that's totally fine. But you're kind of moving out of that, saying like, hey, we want to kind of help guide the ship in different directions. And so speak to me a little bit about, as a craft brewery owner, what that looks like for you. What is a beverage incubator, and how does that connect with craft beer and what you're doing with Second Self, and sort of stretch your legs a little bit at the same time? Sure.
I mean, it kind of comes a lot of the things I've been getting at. So we started with beer. We actually made soda for a while for a company. We've been making other people's beer. We've made coffee, canned coffee. So we started doing all these projects for us and for other people. And this is kind of making it more official. So we've helped companies start just as a friendly consultant or a paid consultant, and now we're kind of putting a formality to this kind of program. So it could be if you want to start a soda company or another beer company, we have the resources that can help you do that. Right. But for us, it's all about creating new and interesting things. So I've been on a wine journey for a while. I love wine. I love natural wine specifically, and which is like the craft beer of the wine world. So really interesting, unique flavors. And we had a beer earlier this year that was a wine beer hybrid. And then last year we did a wine apple, a cider hybrid. So we've been playing around with this already. We're just kind of making it more official. So, the whole, years ago when I decided I wanted to create a brewery is because we would go to these beer competitions and we would... Had to stop for that open. We would enter, and we would hybridize styles all the time. That was kind of what we did. So like Thai Wheat's our flagship beer. It's a spiced wheat beer.
Love Thai Wheat, by the way.
Thank you. So we'd put it in a wheat category and go, why are there spices in our wheat category? Put it in a spice beer category, like, why is this wheaty?
I love the cocoa mole. Now to think about it.
Yeah, same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we've been doing. I've been trying to create new styles of everything for, since I've been brewing since 2002. Right. And this is kind of just, why not add other liquids in it and create even more unique things? Because it's all about creating a new taste for consumers. And does it have to be called beer or wine? Can it be something in between? I don't know.
Well, when you were starting out as a home brewer, it was about finding new flavors for yourself. And 2002, there weren't a lot of things you could buy. Like, it wasn't that diverse of a selection. Right. In our community, the ABV ceiling was really low, so all the best beers you can get were 3-month-old exports.
Yeah.
Or imports, right? So, I mean, you would get into some Germans, some Belgians, there was some Lambics, and that's about it. And then the locals, you had Sweetwater and Atlanta Brewing doing Laughing Skull. You had some 5% IPAs. That was it, really.
Yeah.
So
rest in peace, Dogwood.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah, dogwood. That's true. So, I started homebrewing for the same reason. Back then, it was like there are things I want to try that I'm curious about in beer that I can't buy anywhere. So now it's like homebrewing's gotten harder because now you can buy all kinds of stuff. Anything you can think of, there's probably something on the shelf pretty similar, right? So now it's like, well, where's my curiosity now? Where has it gone from a homebrewing standpoint? It's, I don't know, extracts and different weird things, but
yeah.
So I get it.
So it's interesting that you say, a lot of what you've done is sort of like, kind of mixed styles and towed the lines of different things with your brewery, because the beer that I just opened up, I just noticed is part of this new series of beers that you guys are doing called the Cocktail Series, which is based off of peach Bellini. So tell me about the beer that I just opened up that's actually sort of meant to mimic a cocktail.
Right. So then that's kind of part of this too. So, in part of this world of everything has to be new, as a craft brew maker, we've always been a big R&D company. Like, the Thai Wheat was 52 versions before we launched.
Right.
Taking
big chances.
Yeah. And you have to do these things. So, so this is a series, where it's different from what we normally do, called the Cocktail Series. So they're all inspired by cocktails in different ways. So the first one's Peach Bellini. It's a pale ale base with a ton of lemon drop hops and fresh peach puree. Peach puree is hard to work with because, when you work with any natural fruit, you have to think of what the fruit tastes like without sugar. Because when you ferment, you're removing the sugar.
Yeah.
So
you eat all the sugar.
Yeah, so there's peach in there, but it's not like slapping you in the face with peach. So,
Far
but next we have next two are going to be sour beers. One's a Mai Tai, so pineapple, orange, pomegranate.
Love that.
And then the next one will be a smoked Paloma. So Pine Street Market's smoking the malt for us. So we've been playing.
Very cool.
You mentioned Rausch beers earlier.
Oh yes,
off the podcast, but we've been playing around with a Rausch beer base.
Nice. I will buy all
He'll
that.
be the first to. He'll be the first to be in line for that release.
Yeah. So it'll be a smoked grapefruit sour.
Nice.
That's what that's going to be.
Oh man, that sounds good.
Yeah. So it's going to be apple and a white oak smoke. So not traditional on the Rausch beer.
Right. Yeah.
So,
that's fine.
But I think traditional for Georgia. So we have to have our own twist on it.
Those sound amazing. And, you don't have to give out competitive secrets. Advanced selling.
No, I'll plug Pine Street anytime because they make delicious products.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
Well, that's fascinating. Honestly, we're excited to see where this sort of goes, and it's a lot of fun to see a brewery kind of stretch out a little bit,
right?
And kind of experiment a little bit.
And it's good to see that idea of the cocktail inspired beers go a little deeper, because to date you see some whiskey sours, and you see some margaritas, like they take a Goza and put a bunch of lime in it.
Yeah, so 2 years ago we did Margarita and Goza. It was one of our top sellers.
Yeah.
That's kind of where this started. Is that we did a Paloma after that and a couple others in the tap room. So these are beers that we've been R&Ding in the tap room, but we're releasing them all in a series in a short succession of months because they're all kind of at maturity. But we have to constantly do R&D to make sure we have new cool things out at all times. And the incubator is fun too because we're getting to work with people that aren't beer people and to create new products. I'm working with a rapper in town to create a new beer. I'm working on a coffee company, a new soda company, and someone doing a hop tea. So these are all things that I'm helping people work. And every time I work with a new client, I learn a lot.
Yeah.
And that helps me create better products. And so I think it's the fun part of this business, and being on this side of it is working with cool people to create interesting things. That's what we're really doing, is trying to create fun and interesting products, because beer is a fun thing. It's a common person's drink. You can get it any price level, and it's awesome.
Man, it's inspiring. You just keep talking. I'm going to drink CBD water.
Yeah, sure. It's great. We're eating fresh peaches and drinking peach Bellini beers. It's a good night here in the peach state.
In the peach state.
I mean, we are in like the heart of peach season right now.
Yeah, we are actually. We're eating fresh sliced peaches that we picked up from the farmers market this weekend.
Well,
this peach Bellini is really tasty.
At our latitude, we're actually in the heart of hop harvest season because if you let them go too much further, they're going to burn, baby burn.
Yep.
I've got a few that are browning.
Have you done some?
I do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Comet and Cascade and
I was just talking about Comet
Columbus.
last week, actually.
Columbus is pretty hardy where we're at, actually.
I bet so.
Very hardy. Yeah. Comet's not doing bad. Cascade, not happy.
Yeah, no.
Not happy here at all.
Yeah.
I thought I'd give it a try this year. I'd never done Cascade before.
Yeah.
I've been doing Columbus for years. Like I said, it's super hardy.
Right.
Great IPA
I think
hop.
any of those super high alpha are probably more resilient.
I've done Centennial and it was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a great IPA hop.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to do a ton of stuff with it, but I'm a home brewer. What the hell am I going to do it? Like,
Yeah.
just dry it out.
But it's awesome. You can use
Save some
but
green
you can
for
use
dry hopping.
3 pounds of wet hops because you have
You get
have
3 pounds of wet hops.
Yeah.
Boom. You got 3 gigantic gallon-sized Ziploc bags just chock full.
Right. We
Dry
did
some out with a box fan.
Yeah, we did a fresh hot beer with Serenbe a couple years ago.
Oh,
They
cool.
gave us like 8 pounds, which is nothing for a commercial brewery, but we put it all in one pilot batch. And
Yeah.
It was outstanding.
Yeah, every year, every fall,
so
I
good.
seek out some of the harvest beers.
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada. There are just some breweries that do a really good job with those fresh hop.
Yeah.
They usually drop in like October, November, because it depends how long they ferment them or sit. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to my harvest. It's going to be hardy. It's going to be
It's
awesome.
crazy thinking that harvest is about 6 weeks early here.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're flirting with disaster. You try to get into August very deep with them, you will be pulling a bunch of burnt ends.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jason.
Hey, so
You don't even know which Jason I was talking about.
Yeah, no, exactly.
In your face.
Hey, so something else that I'd love to chat about, since we got some good minds at the table. Not that you and I don't have good minds, but we do. But we have other good minds here.
The Jasons in
We
the
have
room
other
too.
Jasons at the table. Is beer prices. So recently, the past couple of weeks, a Georgia brewery launched a Imperial barrel-aged stout at a price point of $35 for a 750 milliliter, and there was a lot of kerfuffling on the social medias from folks who were kind of miffed at the price.
So do those same people kerfuffle, as you say, when they see $35 for a Cascade sour or for a Carolina Bauhaus sour?
No, I will say that
Or-
I have seen a lot of kerfuffling around Cascade's prices, and honestly, and here in Georgia at least,
I think
Cascade's beers sit on shelves.
well, yeah, but
pretty
I think kerfuffle kind of looks like dust on the shoulder.
Could have been.
It's just collecting dust.
I mean, so the idea is that, or at least I'm giving you a lay of the land, I guess.
Gotcha.
Is that $35 from a Georgia brewery seems a little high when you can get higher rated, more hyped in some cases, beers from more hyped breweries, I'll just say, across the land for less. And so the question is this much to do about nothing? Or do you feel like there is sort of a push and pull that's happening between consumers and breweries as breweries try to defeat the secondary system and secondary prices on the market on the whole? If you look at Westbrook, for instance, Westbrook will sell bottles of their stouts, some of their more exclusive stouts, consumption only, brewery consumption only, for like $200. I think Mexican Cake Reserve is $200 for the bottle, and you have to drink it in the brewery because they don't want you taking that crap
Because
out.
you're going to walk out and you're going to sell it on Beer
exactly
Blacklist
right.
for $500 or $600,
Exactly right.
and they
so
know
Westbrook has done several things to sort of curtail the secondary market. One is they announce releases at the last minute only. That like literally they're like, hey, look at what showed up. Let's look at what we're going to release this morning. It's like Mexican cake coffee or Mexican cake maple.
Yeah.
And they'll do it that morning. And the idea is that local people who are, probably their biggest fans in that area at least, have access to it.
They're not the only ones that do that.
People that live in Atlanta aren't driving 5.5, 6 hours to Charleston to pick up this beer, right? Yeah. So they've done that, and then they've done brewery consumption only. So breweries around the country are trying to figure out ways to curtail the secondary market. Toppling Goliath has seen a lot of action around KBBS, and they're trying to figure out how do they do this. And so one of the ways that I've seen breweries try to curtail this is, well, it's two things. One is, and this happened with Founders CBS, is Founders was just like, F it, we'll just make a lot more of it. And we don't have that issue because now, all of a sudden, there's so much more of it on the market. It's not exclusive. They're not seeing it for $200 a bottle. The second way is pricing it higher themselves because they're like, if this is going to end up at $70, $80 a bottle, why would we not get a little bit more out of it for the work? Because these are super labor intensive beers.
Founders has the capacity to brew it out of rarity, though. Not every brewery has that luxury.
Well, that's true, and the reality is that a lot of these barrel-aged beers sit in stouts for a couple of years, a couple of years, and that's just taking up real estate, and that's just money sitting in barrels. And then you got to count loss and other things, expensive ingredients like Madagascar vanilla, which is through the roof. And now all of a sudden, it's not so far-fetched that $35 is what you get out of it, considering the years that it takes to produce it. So, is this much to do about nothing, or do you feel like there is an authentic push and pull that's happening between consumers and breweries?
You're asking me?
I'm asking both of you.
Ask Jason. You have an owner of a brewery sitting right here.
I know we have.
I'm a schmuck. He's real.
And we have a consumer perspective.
All right. Well, a couple things there. So, I mean, in America, we are producing the best beer in the world, and people are coming. Europeans are coming here to learn. Asians are coming here to learn to brew beer our way, to take it back, because we know that we're making the best beer. You can get outstanding beer in America at every price level, from a $10 6-pack to a $25 4-pack to a $35 bottle. But if you look at other alcohols, wine and liquor, I mean, a world-class wine is going to be $60 plus. Starting. Like
$200-300 for some really Opus one. Yeah, it's behind glass.
Right. Yep. And same with liquor. So, I mean, there's a big price disparity, and it happens in all the tiers. So, I mean, we as manufacturers have no margin when it comes to a beer versus the wine and liquor makers. So we have to do what we can. It's a volume game. And, but when you're doing a special release like the stout you're talking about, yeah, it is labor intensive. And, we've done them too. We don't do them often because we almost lose money every time, even though we're charging $15 a bottle,
right?
Which because I don't think we can get away with $35. That's why I didn't. To really price it the way it should be $30 a bottle is what we should charge. But I don't think people will pay it. But it's this weird dichotomy I see where I see people saying, "Hey, I'm selling this bottle for $65. Wait, why did my 6-pack go up $1?" And people being furious.
Oh, they freak out. Yeah.
They freak out. That goes up $1. Meanwhile, aluminum's gone up 30%, malt has gone up 10%, hops have gone up 20%.
If not more.
Labor's gone up, gas has gone up, plastic's gone up, and we can't raise our price any. So we're getting pinched.
You're getting pinched.
We have to make money on the higher end stuff. That's the only place that people will spend the extra money.
And the on-premise, that's where you have real margin, right? Because if it's in distro, you make a fraction. Like you and the retailer make a little bit of money, and the distributor makes a whole bunch of money.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to make you. You don't have to sign.
Well,
you don't have to sign that check. That's my words, not yours.
It's a compound ratio. So I mean, everyone makes X% every time. So.
I think that the prices have been set. The culture around prices have been set post prohibition around by macro breweries who had the only means to produce that much stuff and ramp up and get up to speed so quickly and get to distribution. And it has been now for the last 70 years nonstop price point down. It's been a race to the bottom from a price perspective. We saw it throughout the 70s and the 80s, extreme competition between Budweiser and Coors in certain regions, or Budweiser and Miller in other regions. And craft beer, you got the late 70s, Anchor Steam, you've got Samuel Adams all coming into the game, right? And they're selling something for 5X at $10, right? 5X, because 40 years ago, a 6-pack of Budweiser cost $4.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they're coming out with a $12 6-pack of Boston Lager or Anchor Steam's, their lager. I don't remember the name of it now off the top of my head. So, anyway, all that to say that we're still selling things for the same price point now, 30, 40 years in, and consumers are going to have to get used to paying more for beer. They just are, because the level of effort, especially when you start talking about barrel aging, these barrels cost $400, $500, $600 for the cheap ones, right?
Well, and hop issues,
and hop issues, and not just shortages. The market gets cornered and gets bought up, and they wind up buying hops from other breweries who have stashed it because they were sitting on cash.
I mean, there's a whole network.
It's a whole network, and it's not cool. So I think it's not fair to the businesses to hold them accountable for dropping prices and going and forcing them to join the race to the bottom, and asking them to produce more creative products, better products, and products that include ingredients that are increasingly expensive to produce, like fruit and hops.
Right, and the culture, at least here in Georgia, isn't quite at the level that people go to breweries and buy the beer. Like, if you talk about, Treehouse here, I mean, people go here and buy the beer. And
I do, but I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I mean, but...
Or the 5%.
Most people don't. But the
you have
culture,
to go to
the
Treehouse.
culture in California is that way. The culture in New England's like that. It's just not here. So if I could charge $24 a 4-pack, I could easily make a beer like this.
Yeah,
like
this that many hops. Yeah,
but I just can't afford it because I have to send some through distribution, and I would just lose money.
Yeah, and unfortunately, here in Georgia, at least, $4 for a can is extreme.
On the shelf,
the real estate game changed. In Georgia specifically, you used to need cheap square footage because everything had to go through distribution, and you weren't relying on taproom revenue. And then all of a sudden, when direct sales came, all these breweries in industrial parks were like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, we're one of them. I mean,
it's really hard.
You have to come to us. We're not. You can't stumble upon us walking out of the Bolts shop.
Exactly.
Exactly. You have to
now, you're not going to have local families that are just passing by and stopping in for a quick bite from the food truck and have a pint or two and let the kids run around. So
now we do have a good bit of locals that do that, but we are a destination because we are an industrial complex in what is now Brewery District of Atlanta, because it's the last bastion of cheapish land.
On the West End,
I think I read that there are like 2 or 3 breweries coming into that area.
Yeah,
you're in.
there's 5 now, and 2 breweries and a cidery opening. So at least that I know of.
That's a reason to go. I mean, if it's a destination,
it's fascinating.
That's the industry getting together.
So let me ask you this then, because this brings up a good question.
Back to pricing.
So, what is the most you would pay for a locally produced barrel-aged stout? Like, what is that point where you go, nah?
So, and $7.50 just to have
$7.50.
A $7.50? That's a lot of beer.
It's a lot of beer. I mean, but it's also not a style I seek out. But I would pay $30.
I wouldn't hesitate to spend $30.
I wouldn't hesitate.
$35.
What's the most you would spend?
If it's amazing, like if I think it's 50, incredible,
60,
I've had it.
I mean,
probably I was thinking 50.
Pretty big size too.
Yeah, I mean, I dropped 50 or 60 for a very.
If I've had it before and I know it's incredible, like I've tried it or had it at the brewery or someone's house or something like that, and I know it's incredible, I would
really
spend 40
now to think about it.
Probably $40-$50.
I'd split it with 3 people.
That's not that bad.
It'd be great.
But what about a $3.75? Like let's take this bottle that I just opened. Orpheus's. This is their Fragmentation of Silence, which is a method traditional with cherries, and it's a phenomenal beer, by the way. This is one of my favorite beers from Orpheus in a lot of time. But this beer comes in a $3.75 bottle. I don't even remember how much it was. Probably $20, something like that.
Yeah.
And this sat in barrels for a long time. It is method traditional.
So it's at least it's a traditional. So part of it was 3 years old, part of it was 2 years old, part of it was 1 year old.
So there you go.
It's a blend.
So would I pay $20 for this bottle? Yeah,
absolutely.
I wouldn't even.
I've spent $20 on bottles like this before.
Yeah, well, I mean, you share it with 3 people. I'm sharing it with 3 people. So was that worth it?
You got to build trust. Like this brewery has put out products at a consistent enough rate for you to have built trust in the brand. Like, not everyone's going to do that for a brewery that's been inconsistent, or they don't like someone there. Or
like, coming out the gate with a $25
out of the gate with that, people are going to go, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, was it from Colorado?
Which one?
Now I'm drawing a blank.
Stave?
No, Stave. I haven't personally bought a good beer from them, but
I think they make great beers. Yeah,
actually,
I've heard really great things about them. But
their sour cherry beers are I forget the name of it, but it's like a horror movie.
I bought one. It was Wort. I was like, how did they can? Why did they can this?
They've done some really. They're super acidic, but they're really good.
No, I was thinking Paradox.
Okay, Paradox. They're out of California.
Mm-hmm. Paradox comes into Georgia. Super expensive, $350. Sitting on shelves collecting dust because they haven't done a thing to build any trust with the market here and do any kind of brand identity. And they haven't branded themselves as being a product like that people would connect with.
Yeah, and to be fair, the brewery that I think most closely resembles their style, because they do a lot of sours and sort of that Cascade train, would probably be Fontaflora, who came into Georgia
Fontaflora,
and they're a better name.
And D9.
Well, they're also a lot closer.
They're also a lot
closer.
closer.
A lot of people here have been to Nashville.
Didn't travel.
And Paradox, when I saw it on the shelf, the first time I heard it, I thought it was stouts the way that looks.
It's all like skull and crossbones.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be super heavy stouts, and that's not really what I don't gravitate. It took me a couple times when I saw it. I was like, oh, this is probably something I love.
I had a pineapple upside down inspired one from Paradox that was really good. But I've had a lot of their beers that I was just kind of like, there are local options that I prefer better.
Right.
And I think you're starting to see that. We're seeing a lot, because we're in Georgia, and we're seeing a lot of national breweries coming into this market because Atlanta is such a huge city, and especially
the Southeast is one of the few places left to grow craft beer, and everyone, or at least a couple years ago it was. I think now we're getting kind of saturated a little bit. A lot of the big breweries are coming here because there's still room.
But Atlanta is a big city.
Atlanta's a huge city.
Huge city.
Yeah.
Huge city. 6 million people.
Yeah.
The craft beer
out of the 10 million in Georgia,
base in this area is getting bigger and bigger.
Like in breweries in surrounding states, it's sort of like we've wondered over the years, like, why aren't they coming to Georgia? Why aren't they coming to Georgia? It's like because you can't, because it has an Atlanta in it.
Right.
If you can't serve Atlanta, you
don't serve Georgia.
Don't come into the state at all.
Yeah.
Just to disappoint, right? I'm Old Nation kind of made that mistake a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Cigar City did it years ago. They launched and were like, oh, what? Hold on.
Whoa, this takes a lot of beer.
Yeah. And some of it has to do with their distributor relationship too. I know that I have a family member that owns a brewery, and I'm not going to say who it is or who their distributor is, but they didn't have the best distributor relationship in this state.
It's hard. Well, hopefully they update the franchise laws and we can overcome that.
But I mean, you look at Atlanta, we have Hoof Hearted now, which is out of Ohio. You have Aslan, which is out of Virginia. And that train is just going to continue to grow. My fear, though, is that a lot of these beers are literally just going to sit on the shelves because there's such a just glut of.
Well, it mattered. It mattered when we had limited local options, when there were only a few breweries.
Yep.
Then I gobbled them up.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Now that we have really amazing local beers, I'll be honest, I don't look to out-of-staters very much. If there's word of mouth associated, I was like, okay, I'll check it out on occasion, but rarely is it like, okay, that's going to be a staple in the fridge.
And for me, I'm a little bit more biased being in it, but I want to support other businesses here.
Locally, absolutely.
These breweries are my friends.
We always say buy local, man. Not just local, hyper local.
I mean, these guys are friends of ours. I'm friends with all of the guys who own breweries here in the city, and like I'll support them as people more than
even like
else.
The brewery in my neighborhood that Jason doesn't like. I'm buying their beers. I need them to be successful. I need them to do better. I need them to grow.
We all need them.
They make a really great beer
great neighborhood resources.
So
too.
Yeah, absolutely. I want breweries in my neighborhood, and I want to support the beer businesses that are nearby.
I agree.
That sell really great products of all kinds.
Yeah,
and, local and not local, and then also the brewery. Like, it's really important to me.
Yep.
Yeah, and breweries have always been the location where people can gather and talk and explore new ideas. It's kind of how I set up the room that we have. And
You watch bad cover bands.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we don't do that.
Bad company. So let me ask you this, and this is a personal question. This is not related to pricing or any CBD waters per se, but where do you see as we're talking about kind of moving the ball forward in craft beer? Where do you see moving the ball forward for you and your brewery moving it down?
Yeah,
the line?
what's next?
Yeah, what's next?
Yeah, I mean, this CBD thing is going to be interesting. That's going to be because they're saying this is going to be a $25 billion industry in 5 years, and we are
in Georgia.
No, in the
CBD,
U.S.
Oh,
yes,
with federal legality, which is a long ways away, I think. But go for it.
CBD, not
CBD,
THC.
not THC. Gotcha.
That's a very big difference.
That is true.
So which is a 25%, 25x from today. It's a $1 billion industry.
Gotcha.
Year. So. Big growth in that, so that could change the dynamic of what this company is if that happened.
Hopefully, you're riding the wave.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But for us, it's just staying true to the styles that we make and things that we love, and hopefully, we'll be able to do more barrel-aged alternative fermentation stuff. Austin Brumley and Dave Fuhrer, they've both been promoted, and they're making some kick-ass special stuff that we only sell at the brewery. But we have a whole alternative yeast program that we worked with Kennesaw State to develop. So we've developed a house strand, multiple house strands,
cool
hybrid yeast and bacterias, and we've discovered a new yeast that we haven't named yet.
What? So you're gonna have your own
fun.
strain?
Yeah. So that's kind of fun.
Are you gonna call it raisin strain?
Oh, beer name dibs.
Yeah, sorry. He's like, write that down. Copyright it now.
Yeah. So
your naming rights have been revoked already.
Keep making
the
more
midnight
fun
strain
stuff.
to Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, the focus is the tap room, like everyone else, because distribution's hard. I mean, it just gets harder with more breweries.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
We were talking about this earlier. There's a new brewery that's opened up in the Atlanta area that's gotten a lot of play here in the Atlanta area and the Georgia area. And our friends over at Good Beer Hunting have written about it because Austin Ray writes for Good Beer Hunting, and he's a huge fan of these guys at Halfway Crooks, and so they're doing this sort of on-premise I'll call it on-premise primarily model, which in Georgia was only only.
It's only been possible for just shy of 2 years now.
Just shy of 2
Correct.
years,
Yeah.
September of 2 years ago. So they're gonna primarily just do on-premise, and very few kegs make it out into the market, and so. Even in Georgia, you've seen things kind of shift and move into different directions. And so I guess, thinking about how you remain successful as a brewery, it's constantly changing. You're constantly having to change and think about what you're going to do to kind of keep your ship moving forward.
Yeah, and we're hitting 5 years this year. So how do we stay relevant as a brewery that's been around? Like, some people had us early on and didn't like our beer and never tried it again. And so I still have to convince those people to try us again because we're making the best beer we've ever made. And I can say that every day because it gets better every day.
Right.
Like, it's something that we constantly work on.
Yeah.
If I was open a brewery today, we probably would do more of an on-premise model because that makes a lot more sense. You can have a lot more creativity. It costs a lot less money to get started. You can be more neighborhood focused. But in 2014, that was not an option, and there was not a light at the end of the tunnel that it would be.
That's a fascinating question. Honestly, let me ask you this question because you said that, and it's a great question. Honestly, this is the kind of thing that we love to talk about. But if you were to open a brewery today in 2019, in the middle of 2019, what would you do differently?
There's a million things I'd do differently. Now that I have experience and could get access to capital, things are different now than when I was not. But yeah, if I was to open up something on my own now, it would be barrel-focused, tiny tap room. That would be my ideal thing because that's what I love. That's the stuff I really, really gravitate toward and like slow sours and honestly pilsners and super light things. Those are
sort of like the halfway crooks are guys.
Drinkers.
I mean, that's why I love what they're doing, and there were such great people. I'm glad Atlanta's going to get it.
And it's fascinating. The halfway crooks guys, they and again, I recommend you go to Good Beer Hunting and read the article that Austin recently did on them and why they're different. But they're primarily focusing on lagers and pilsners. I don't know that they have even a traditional IPA on their menu. I went there a couple weeks ago, and I had a lager and a pilsner, and both of them were
and they are
super
outstanding,
clean, refreshing. Yeah. They're doing something that is, at least in our area, is a little different. Very much like the brewery that Wayne frequents.
You know, Arches, they do lagers.
Arches, they do a good
but
job. They also have IPAs and they also do stouts as well. But
most breweries build on an IPA.
Yeah,
but you have the halfway crooks guys, and they're just like, that's not what we do. And their head brewer and one of their owners, Joran, actually was he was brought on to help start a brewery in the Decatur area called Three Taverns. He has a long lineage of Belgian beer. His family, his uncle, his grandfather worked in Belgian beer there. And
uncle's is Peter from New Belgium too.
Yeah, exactly. His uncle's Peter from New Belgium. Yeah. So the guy has an incredible pedigree, but
it's got good bones.
Honestly, they're just like, for us, what looks different for us is lagers and pilsners in a very sort of different tap room.
That's what people who
look like any other tap room.
That's what people who make beer drink.
It is, and it's funny. I talk about this a lot, the evolution of the craft beer drinker, because I've gone through my journey, and I'm sure you guys have too. But at first it's
twice.
Yesterday
for me, it's starting going from macro to not macro. I found something I liked. It was Samuel Smith Oatmeal Stout. So
good one.
I very quickly stouts must be what's different. So that I just drank a bunch of stouts.
Right.
And then just the more extreme stouts and whatnot. And then I got into IPAs and the same thing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I've now kind of gone through my full evolution. And what's weird is I'm now drinking lagers. Which is where I was against for so long, but it's just crisp, clean.
When they're
tastes
good,
like
they're
beer.
really good.
It's sort of like the way a pendulum thing naturally works.
Pendulum does.
We went from New England IPAs and fruited sours, and now people are going the complete opposite. They're like, I'm over this. I'm tired of it.
It's fatiguing.
Yeah, it's fatiguing. That's right.
It's just tiring to keep up with all of it, and my palate just gets burned out after one or two of those big beers. I just want something just delicious and cold.
Speaking of that, I just opened up.
Speaking
of fatiguing,
what a nerd!
I just opened up.
That's awesome.
We talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago.
I'm still nursing this.
Still nursing this method
this
traditional
Orpheus
with cherries.
It's good.
This
it's
is
really
in the
good.
same vein as that. This is Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Why do I not believe you?
Hard coffee. Clocking it at 5%. We talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago. Hard coffee from Pabst Blue Ribbon. We talked about alternative alcoholic beverages from breweries. Obviously, they're not a craft brewery, but
that's not completely alternative. It's still alcoholic.
But it's not beer. It's a Pabst
It's a
Blue
malt
Ribbon,
beverage.
but it doesn't taste like beer.
So
it is a malt.
So are those sparkling waters.
It's not made from beer.
It's like a stout, right? Those are just.
I imagine it's
those are just not sweet Zima.
Sugar
To me, it
with
tastes
coffee.
like a frappuccino.
Fermented
the bottled
sugar.
frappuccino.
When are we
from
What do we
Starbucks.
call these sparkling water beers things? These
Hard seltzers?
hard seltzers. Why don't we just gonna start calling them not sweet Zima?
Well, no. So I said this. I actually tweeted this yesterday. I said, hard
call a spade,
hard
man.
seltzers are the new wine cooler.
Absolutely.
Which is accurate. Because I saw a billboard for a hard seltzer, and the billboard literally reminded me of 25
That's how they're selling
years ago and seeing a Bartles
Absolutely.
and James wine cooler ad.
The Seagrams.
I was like, that is the same thing. I just realized this. And so, but anyway, this is Pabst Blue Ribbon's hard coffee, and I'll be honest,
Seagram's
it's
wine
delicious
cooler.
as all get out. I don't want it to be
Is it?
delicious, but it is.
I like black coffee. I don't like that.
I'm just telling you, it's delicious. But I don't get any alcohol out of it, and it does not remind me of any beer whatsoever. So
I've been
Say, from a coffee drinker, which I know you are, how is it on the coffee scale?
I mean, it tastes like a very sweet. You get the aftertaste of coffee.
It smells like like the little like off-white beige Starbucks coffee type
Frappuccino?
beverage you
Yeah,
buy
that's
at the
what I'm
grocery
talking
store,
about. It's a bottle Frappuccino.
the gas station.
My friends who are in the
I
coffee
hate
industry
those.
would absolutely gasp in horror, but I will tell you that one of my good friends in the coffee industry who lives in Portland, Oregon, begged me to find him a 4-pack. So
Everybody's going to have it.
So they don't have access to it in Oregon, and he wanted me to find it for him. So there you go.
I've been drinking the hell out of the tremolo.
Tremolo, yeah, those
From Wild
absolutely.
Heaven and
Wild
Radio.
Heaven and Radio Roasters.
He doesn't know this.
I've got one in the thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so local roastery Radio,
Yep.
Yeah.
Coffee Roasting Heroes,
Yeah.
partnered with Wild Heaven. So they brew it in the system and then flash chill it
Yep.
and can it with nitro.
Did you drink it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, what did you think?
Tastes like Frappuccino.
Doesn't it taste like a Frappuccino?
Yeah.
It tastes like a bottle of Frappuccino.
Yeah, I wonder how much actual coffee is in
Oh
there.
my
not
God,
just
that's
coffee
sweet.
flavoring.
It's
yeah,
sweet.
super sweet.
But I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only way it
It's
would be
like
that good.
It's like ice cream, coffee ice cream.
Yes.
That was
I get
left
a lot
out.
of like I get
kinda
a
disgusting.
hint of coffee on the back end, but it's super sweet.
Tastes like
milky.
cream.
Milky cream, yeah.
And it's got 5% alcohol.
Yeah.
Malt beverage with natural and artificial.
Yeah,
flavors.
but you're not plowing through 4 of those.
No, not at one time.
Not
What do
in
you
a
think?
day.
I wonder how much caffeine's in there, too.
Good question.
Probably not a whole lot.
What do you think?
It's kind of disgusting. I'm not feeling it.
I liked it and you don't like it. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm a coffee nerd.
I'm not a big
It's
sweet.
way sweet.
Yeah, it's way
It's
sweet.
kind of what I would want out of something like this, or like a bottled coffee.
I would say it is better than I expected.
Yes, it is that, and that's how low I held
Silver
the bar.
linings.
I definitely don't get it. I'll drink the rest.
You could
of
take it, yeah.
Do it.
But no, we've made 4 different nitro coffees now, and we're actually working on our own house.
Oh,
one.
nice.
Yeah, so we'll probably have a CBD coffee as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I come by and get some?
Anytime.
All right.
Hey,
Let's do that.
That's a wrap.
Thanks
for
for
this
joining
week.
us.
it
Thanks
was
for
a lot of
joining
fun.
us,
Thank you.
Jason Santamaria from Second Cell Brewing. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you for
us
having me. It was
today.
wonderful.
Talking CBD water and the state of craft beer for you, Wayne. Thanks again for another delicious week of craft beer and conversation. I'm glad that we were able to stay out of any controversy this week,
We'll find out.
and we hope. And so we will see you next time.
I'm still worried I said something stupid in the last episode. Now I'm going to be up all night.
No,
now
we're
if that
good.
Brewbound
No,
thing
I've
happens.
listened to it several times. To make
Have
sure.
you? Several times you listened to it?
Several times I've listened to it, and we're still good. So,
I don't know. Something stinks.
So thank you guys.
All right, peace out.
Thanks again
ya.
to Second Cell for
Bye.
supplying us with these tasty beverages, which we portrayed of.
This peach Bellini is really good.
Peach Bellini is
Really good.
But honestly, Cirrus CBD Water, and
That was good too. I'm going to buy a bunch of it.
so
Yeah, it's ask your local store. You can get it anywhere.
What?
there you go.
All right.
Or come to the brewery.
There you go. All right,
Support your local
traders.
breweries.
Come to the brewery. Margin's better.
All right, traders
make
in
more.
St. Louis are like, hey, let's trade some of that side project for some of that Cirrus CBD water.
I will
Get
send
on
it.
that train.
I will send
We'll see you
this.
on the beer
Although
attitude.
we could probably get in trouble
You can take my
sending
side
CBD
projects.
into
Yeah,
some
yeah.
states. That could get you in some serious trouble.
Yeah.
From All right. Peace.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at The Last Beer Show. You can email us sip@lastbeershow.com. If there's anything you want us to touch on and discuss, we would be happy to. Go to the iTunes store, leave us a review or a rating. We would be eternally grateful. And thank you very much.